California is home to some of the most beautiful topography, inspiring sunsets, and cool ocean breezes. And 6 of the top 10 cities with the largest homeless populations are within its borders. Valerie Sanz and Deborah Scearce-Miles from Fielding Graduate University wondered what motivates someone to volunteer to work with people who look as if life has thrown them away. In this short video, these researchers use anecdotal evidence, observations, and some facts to explore why some people will fearlessly, day after day, month after month, volunteer their time to assist some of our most vulnerable people. Valerie was able to get first-hand perspective from several volunteers in Chico, California.
Safe Space Winter Shelter is a nonprofit 501c3 organization that provides low-barrier emergency shelter from December through March for people experiencing homelessness in Chico, California. With 50 to 60 guests per night, Safe Space Winter Shelter is a seasonal, volunteer-run, low-barrier shelter providing food and shelter at rotating locations throughout Chico. Through the winter season, Safe Space provides shelter for a total of 232 guests, utilizing 346 amazing volunteers to support each guest's unique needs. Safe Space is a come-as-you-are shelter where the guests are not required to comply with any drug alcohol testing to access the shelter, and they do not limit or deny services if a guest is under the influence of alcohol or drugs. Instead, Safe Space focuses on behavior and utilizes a code of conduct to ensure a safe place for guests and volunteers. Safe Space is a volunteer-driven organization and utilizes a rotating facility model. Our hosts offer their facilities for 1 or 2 weeks throughout the winter season. Each night, multiple volunteers come together to register guests, process their personal belongings, distribute bedding, prepare meals, do laundry, and yes, even provide live entertainment before settling in for the night. During the COVID-19 crisis, Safe Space is one of many local organizations helping their unsheltered community members shelter in place. The staff and volunteers continue to prepare and deliver meals to people where they are living in hotels and those who continue to remain outside. But the need for volunteers is a very important part of serving the needs of our homeless and our community. Safe Space is doing what they can with volunteers.
My name's Katie Norris.
And why you are volunteering?
I volunteer mainly because growing up, after my dad passed away at a young age, we didn't really have a lot, and my mom provided what she could, and there were times when I could have been homeless, and just by the kindness of others donating food or anything like that, it kept me and my 4 sisters and my mom under a roof. And then when I moved to Chico, I started working at Youth for Change, and I work in the medical records department, but I see what it does for the community with kids. And then I started volunteering at Safe Space 3 years ago, and I like the community that they've created for themselves. Everybody's always been really nice to me. I just feel energized coming in and being a part of this and helping them. And I've cried a few times where they stop and tell me that what we do for them means like the world to them, that we're volunteering our time. I stop on the street and talk to people, and just the negativity behind it, it's like, just be a good person, you know, like, I don't know, it makes me feel good that they feel good that we're here for them.
Wonderful. And where do you volunteer?
I volunteer here, and then I also volunteer, another Safe Space volunteer does like a hunger trolley, so I will donate food, I'll bake, stuff like that, and they pass out meals. I've also baked and passed out meals on Thanksgiving with some friends of mine. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So, anything else you'd like to add?
I really hope more people volunteer, and it's not scary. Trust me, it's not. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you.
I volunteer with the Safe Space Shelter operation because someone needs to step in and care for the people who are otherwise ignored on the streets. The homeless population is one of our most victimized populations, and they are susceptible to being assaulted every night, freezing with people who are dying in the middle of the night. They have nowhere to go. They're sick. A lot of them have abscesses and wounds, and they're hungry. They're dehydrated because they're often not allowed to use a restroom here in town, a public restroom, so they withhold their fluids so that they're holding it longer, and that's putting their systems under stress. A lot of them will deal with addiction, and that's why the low barrier shelter is an option for them. And they would be otherwise excluded with a regular standard shelter that would require that they be sober for a period of time if they could even access a bed for the night. And the Safe Space Shelter is a temporary, it only works for a few weeks out of the year, and that is based on volunteers, only volunteers. And I started it last year, and I started it as part of my internship where it was required, and I was honestly afraid my first night. I was afraid of the people and what might happen to me. And my very first night, I met all these individuals that were people. They're just like my aunts and uncles and myself. I could see them. I could see they're just normal people who are funny, and they had families and they shared their stories, and I couldn't believe how normalized they are. They're suffering and need help, but people have painted them as monsters. And they're not. They're humans who are needing our help, and it's okay to need help. And I love being there to lend my voice and lend a smile and help them with their bedding for the night, knowing that they'll be safe for a night. I wish that we could offer more help and that we had a more permanent low barrier shelter so that they can take those steps to recovery and have case management and get their life back on track. But we don't have that now. And this is what we have, is this small, safe space for them. And I love being a part of it, and I wish that more people would at least just meet these people. Just meet them, give them a chance, hear their story, look them in the face. They're all just regular human beings that need our help. And I teach my children about the program and the need for it, and so they're not afraid. They care about helping people too, and they could share with their friends and their family and people at school about the experiences that they have. And that, I think, helps with awareness, because one voice lends to another voice, and eventually I hope that accurate education is put out there for people so that they're treated more better.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
About 7 years ago, I read on the news about a woman who died on the streets in downtown Chico. She was someone who had some alcohol problems, but died just out there by herself and wasn't found till morning. And then it took them days to find her daughter. And that, I couldn't get away from thinking of that. So a day or two later, they had something on the news about Safe Space needing volunteers that they'd have to close early. And I started doing it, and that was 6-7 years ago. The volunteers are the best. These people just do it to help out. The guests are the most vulnerable, the ones with alcohol, drug problems, behavior problems. And after this many years, I've gotten to know a lot of them. I see them the rest of the time through the years. They become friends. I know a lot about them. They know a lot about me. And when we close, and it's cold weather, all any of us can do is think about, are they going to make it? You know, is something going to happen? Why can't we find a shelter year-round? And just for the example, this week, we've lost 2 more that weren't in the shelter. We're not even sure if one of them wasn't because we were closed for a week because we had no place to go. But It's needed. Every person has a right to have a place to sleep. And they know by coming to us, because we are volunteers, they know we're doing this because we care about them. They understand that, and they appreciate it. And I wish we could do more. That's it.
My name is Dan Joseph. I believe, oh gosh, why am I working for Safe Space? First of all, I generally work shelter setup core position, meaning shelter supervisor setup. And on Sunday nights, Monday nights, I probably got my first good look at poverty when I was traveling in the third world, in Asia, in Indonesia, and India, seeing the street people there, just seeing how desperate those folks are, how little they had. And travel in Latin America also reinforced that. So, you know, when I moved from another town to Chico, to Paradise actually, I was just listening to the radio one day, and Leslie Johnson was on there, and she put out a call for volunteers, and I had the time, and so I just figured, why not? And, you know, and the concept of, well, if we don't do it, who's going to do it, has always been there in the back of my mind. And so, and it was also a learning experience for me. And I'm definitely interested in learning more about life and people, and you know, what gets people in certain situations. Because I've been out of money myself, you know, in my life, and that's a scary thing. And I didn't get to the homeless level, but you know, just being on a razor's edge, on a thin margin, is something that shakes you up a little bit. So my third world travel gave me a huge appreciation for what I do have, and it's also exposed me to people that have nothing, and a great degree of empathy, I think, sort of welled up in me as a result of that. And I figured that maybe there's something I could put a Band-Aid on. You know, that's kind of how we're thinking of this, a lot of us, you know, and help, you know, in our own community to try and make it a little bit better. If we try to fix the whole world, that's not going to happen. That's, you know, and you drive yourself crazy trying to do that. So, you know, fixing little bits of your own world, this being one of them, or helping it out and easing the suffering of, you know, some of your community members. That's kind of my focus, and it definitely makes me feel good. You know, I can't deny that. You know, it makes me feel like I'm helping and not just kind of passing things by. You know, and it's great having an effect on you know, your community in that way. You know, there's a lot of appreciation we get from these folks. It's not everybody, but it's a lot of these folks. They really, really appreciate what we're doing. So it's been good. This is about my 5th year, something like that, 5th or 6th year with Safe Space, and I learn more each year, and every year gets a little better, and so just trying to help where I can.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you, Dan. Thank you very much. Your name and why you volunteer.
Okay, my name is Corinne Meester, right here in Chico. I'm the retired director of special education. I should be looking at the dot, huh? Okay, so I volunteer because I can. You know, there are those that can and those that can't. 2 ways. One, I've always volunteered since I retired, but I like volunteering where I'm needed. I volunteered at the hospital. Boring. You sit and wait and walk someone to a room. Here, they need me. Not everybody can do this. I can do this. So I like being somewhere that they can use my skills, and I feel like I'm making a difference. So that's why I'm here. And I think those of us that can should, and I can get back. So I first started just because I knew somebody who came here. But I come back because I know these people now. These are humans. And I come back to do what I can do. Say hello to them. Check in. Yeah, I know them now. So these are my people. So I come back every year. But, you know, every night is different. It brings a new challenge, or, heck, some nights it's boring. But I do it because it's the right thing to do. I don't know. I'm retired, so I volunteer. This is just one of the places I volunteer. Might be one of my favorite places, but this is one of the places. And I think many people do it the same thing. You know, you've worked in service all your life, then you volunteer when you retire. I'm a director of special ed and a teacher, so I do.
Wonderful. Thank you for your service.
Yeah.
The Brother Benno Foundation runs a soup kitchen and thrift shop in Oceanside, California. On October 21, 1983, the first meal was served. A cauldron of soup made at the Abbey by Brother Benno was taken to a little house named after him, where he served it mainly to street people. Unlike Safe Space, Brother Benno's operates year-round. Their guests are mostly families, working poor, disabled, and low-income seniors. During the height of the pandemic, Carmelina agreed to do an audio interview.
Hi, my name is Carmelina Reyes Rodriguez. I am a volunteer at Brother Benno's, which is a soup kitchen for homeless. And we also provide other services like, well, when it's not pandemic season, we provide showers and clothing and maybe assistance when getting their IDs, things like that. And we give them resources or information on referrals so they can go and seek whatever they need.
Okay, how long have you been doing this?
I started doing it July 1st. I retired in June from 42 years of working in public education, both in Mexico and here in the States, high school level. I chose the homeless because I had the childhood trauma of at least in Mexico, they tell you you're going to give you to the boogeyman. And I would see a homeless person and I would cringe just because even though it was dumb and irrational. And so I've always tried to face my challenges, and I love it. I've been working since July 1st. I usually work twice a week, but right now with the pandemic and other volunteers not coming, I'm working 3 days a week. And right now I'm like everything. I'm like the wild card. They need clothing, I'm the closet. I come running. Right now I did 4 miles just from this morning because I hand out lunches once the curbside meals are gone, because we start in the morning outside with a table where they get takeout meal, and then they get extra stuff. So if the community donors gave us muffins or bread or milk, they get a whole bunch of food out there. Once that shuts down, then they come to the front door. And at the front door, I hand out sack lunches that are made with sandwiches and other knickknacks that they put in there. Either granola bars, chips, cookies. They get a bottle of water. I have gotten to know different types of homeless people and also low-income families. We provide food distribution for low-income families. So it really has helped me a lot as a person to understand the homeless population and the differences and how, you have a fraction that mental health is a big issue, but then you have other people that they were working, they were making a good salary, they got sick, then their boss said, hey, sorry buddy, your medical's up and goodbye Charlie Brown, and now they're homeless. And so you see all sorts of people, or people that went through domestic violence, or people that made wrong choices in life and ended up in jail. So it's like they're human beings. So exactly. And I really try to be very non-judgmental. Oh, yeah. So I'm trying to see the human being in there, not focus on what you look like on the outside. And I don't really care what color they are or what height they are or if they're man or woman. At the moment I'm talking to them, they're human beings. I try to make them feel valued and respected. I always say yes ma'am, no sir, because it's like you never know. The wheels turn a lot, and right now you're in one situation, next minute you're in a different. And it's really interesting once you get to see the same people over and over again. So that's kind of my background.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
This has been great.
Motivates me about helping our unhoused neighbors is that not only is it a multifaceted problem, but it is a multifaceted solution. And our unhoused neighbors are not going to be separate from the community. So if you necessarily don't care about them as humans, I hope you do, but maybe you don't, but maybe you care about the health and safety of your community, especially in times of things like the COVID crisis, then you need to be caring also about our unhoused neighbors. If you care about having a vibrant economy, then caring about our unhoused neighbors is a part of that solution as well. So really, anytime you're looking at any civic aspect, my desire would be that everyone would care about the unhoused just for the sake of them as human beings, and human beings with stories that have brought them to that particular place through many, many, many different journeys. But even if you don't care about those humans, caring about the larger civic engagement and larger prosperity of every city is an important aspect that cannot be teased away from helping to support our unhoused neighbors. And then finally, thinking about it in terms of my own life or other people, when they think back on all of our journeys, most of us are just one or two decisions away from being in the same places that our unhoused neighbors find themselves today. And it's not just one story. It's not just a binary yes-no situation. And so providing a solution isn't going to be a binary yes-no situation either. It is complex, but it is not unsolvable. And really the first step is to have a community, both from the top down and the bottom up, that are activated and care about trying to solve this deeply complex problem in all of our major communities across the world.
When you see someone on the streets who is obviously homeless, they may be asking for money, clearly under the influence, or frightening as they seem to be incoherent or talking to themselves. Do you feel empathy, or do you turn a blind eye at the discomfort of the sight? Do you think by the luck of the draw or by grace that could be me, or do you judge them as being responsible for their plight? People become homeless for a variety of reasons, from economic hardship to environmental displacement from things like wildfires and other natural disasters. Some are victims of domestic violence or health issues, both physical and mental, or they've made bad choices from life knocking them down. We humans, as social creatures, are impacted by other humans. Unfortunately, the media's focus on the plight of the homeless portrays them as addicts, alcoholics, mentally ill, and possibly violent. So to deal with the discomfort of seeing someone sleeping or begging on the streets, we make an unconscious or a conscious decision to discount them. We do this by feeling that we live in a just world, so they must deserve their fate. Or we view them as the other, someone to be feared. The volunteers that we talked with were able to work with our most vulnerable people because they overcame their fears and their misconceptions of the homeless and the poor, to see their humanity and to have compassion for their story.